It is said that those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. But we have failed to recognize the cancer of moral inequity leaching through the roots of our system that claims all men to be equal. Today, we will shed light on the dark injustice that we fail to see. We have failed to recognize the plagues in our system, the system that guarantees all men to be equal. We have failed to cleanse the judicial institutions that prioritize the satisfaction of conviction over the happiness of America's innocent souls. The innocent souls that deserve freedom, that deserve justice, and that yearn for mercy.
We have failed to see what justifies the punishment. We continue to imprison the guilty party in order to sustain a proper society, a fake, gilded society. Over the past 40 years, we have almost octupled the number of people incarcerated, and yet we continue to grow.
We have failed the impoverished, who are punished as much for their crimes as they are for their indigence. Without wealth, they remain at the mercy of an uncaring justice system to assign them for a counsel for their trial. Without wealth, they must wait for a lawyer that may never be appointed or face the court alone and ascertain their sentencing. We have failed the mentally ill and disabled who are denied the treatment that they so desperately need. They need doctors, but get policemen. They need hospital beds, but get jail cells. And they need help, but face torment that causes them to fall further and further into madness. We have failed our children whose youth is disregarded by the system. More children are being tried as adults and sent to adult prisons where they will almost certainly be abused, raped, and traumatized. The system has the means to protect these children, but lacks enough compassion to care.
We have failed Trina Garnett, a poor, psychologically abused and mentally ill girl who inadvertently killed 2 boys by accidentally dropping a match in their house. She was incompetent to stand trial and found to have no intent to kill, yet she was still sentenced to die in prison. The judge that presided over Trina's case called it the saddest he'd ever seen. He knew that justice was not being done, but law dictated that he must send the child to waste away in prison. Trina was raped by staff as soon as she arrived, and her mental health continued to decline. The system turned a girl's life into a nightmare from which she would never wake. We have failed to see the people in dire need of help, not only from society, but from themselves. Almost a fourth of inmates imprisoned have a serious mental illness. This means about 380,000 individuals with a severe psychiatric disease are behind bars in the United States, and instead of being offered a helping hand, society neglects them. We have failed Walter McMillian, who was falsely accused of killing a girl and sentenced to death for the crime. Evidence was suppressed, testimonies were falsified, all to kill a man for a crime he didn't commit. Through the efforts of some brave souls, McMillian's innocence was confirmed and he was, eventually, released. 6 years he spent before the illegal suppression of evidence and the false testimonies against him were realized. 6 years he spent on the sepulchral death row agonizing over when he'd draw his last breath. While he was on death row, Walter asked his lawyer a question. Do you ever think about dying? The courts initially failed to properly examine Walter's case and simply glanced at it through a racially diluted keyhole. We have failed to give the fair trial that was promised to every individual of this country, yet we still attempt to skew the results. 164 of this group were exonerated. Just imagine the number of innocent souls wrongly convicted and killed in the history of the US. We have failed Horace Roberts, a man falsely accused of murdering his lover. Horace tried to deny his relationship with the victim for the sake of his marriage. The prosecution, however, seized his moment of weakness as irrefutable proof that he committed the horrific act. After over a decade in prison, a ray of hope illuminated Horace's dark reality. A local nonprofit agreed to re-examine his case, and they immediately saw the holes in the prosecution's assumptions. Through simple DNA testing, Horace was cleared of any guilt, and the true perpetrators were caught.
The stories of McMillian and Roberts embody the statement, "Don't judge a book by its cover." Their looks, stereotypes, and assumed vices concealed the purity and innocence of their hearts. Hearts that were forever broken because of an assumption made by the privileged against the oppressed and in the name of justice.
We have failed to acknowledge the deficiencies of the justice system and have indicted innocent people based on one look. One look is all the system needs to pass a misguided judgment. Out of the 240 cases of people exonerated in this past year, nearly 75% were convicted due to misidentification and 23% due to falsified confessions.
We fail to realize that innocent convicts can never get back to the life that they were born to live. We fail to realize the hundreds of thousands of underprivileged families that pray for a snowball's chance in hell that their family won't have to spend their lives trapped by an arrest under the charges of having a lack of privilege. We have failed in the past, but a few heroes have tirelessly campaigned to make progress. They struck down laws that consigned children to death, and they slewed the statutes that sent the mentally ill to an early grave. These few champions have won victories for humanity against injustice.
The Innocence Project has branches across the country and is devoted to succeeding where the system fails. They are trying to overturn these failures and provide a voice to the victims of injustice. With just a donation, you too can be a glimmer of hope for those swept up in the sea of inequity.
We have failed these many tortured souls, but we still have a chance to speak for the voiceless who seek a voice of compassion, the compassion that helps people realize that different colors, creeds, and classes of the world together craft the mural of humankind, the mural of equality, the mural of just mercy.